Hello and welcome to a look at Action Biker for the Commodore 64. The game that was released by Mastertronic and being a cheap-range game. You play Clumsy Colin, who needs to pick up several components for his bikes, bikes. It's only a single bike. Items including crash helmet, can of pop, the highway code, and of course upgrades like fast acceleration, that kind of stuff. You drive through a small city kind of thing, which has a construction site and a playground as potential obstacles, and the different components you need to gather are spread, I think it's called, all over the place. And of course the challenge is to find said components and preferably doing it within the time limit. And then, as you can see, the track over there we just passed is the drag race track, where you, once you have gathered all components, need to complete a drag race. Depending on how fast you complete that, you get your score is modified by that. So the main challenge of the game is obviously to find the components and then pick them up. And even though initially the components are relatively easy to reach and pick up, later on in the game they become quite deviously placed and outright obnoxious. Let's go with the tech stuff first. Graphically, to be honest, for a cheap-range game, it's not bad. It's probably not spectacular. It's a bit rough, I would say. Not bad, but just a bit rough. But the scrolling is surprisingly great, and the details they have a cutesy style to them, I have to admit. The bike itself, does it look like a bike? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It doesn't really matter. As a cheap-range game, I am not overly unhappy about how it looks. I think it's got a little even distinct style that I'm quite happy with. The music, it is of a decent quality, but yeah, it is a bit bland. I don't know. It is a sort of a cheerful, relaxed tune, and maybe personally I would have preferred something a bit more beefy. But all the same, the quality is undeniable. The sound effects are not many, but they're decent, and they add a bit extra to the game. But of course, as always, gameplay is the paramount thing. And when it comes to the gameplay, this game will either be very, very enjoyable or very, very frustrating, or perhaps even a combination of the two, because of the fact that the components you're picking up initially are, as I said earlier, relatively easy to get to, but then later on it becomes very, very obnoxious. And of course, by playing through the game, you'll learn where the different components are located and will be able to pick them up, spending less time in the process. And your score is directly related to picking up your items. If you look at the interface, you can see the bottom half the score, which makes sense. The high score, which should make sense as well. To the right of that, there's a timer. It doesn't run real time, but if that reaches 12, it's game over. Under that, even you have the bonus timer, and that is the score you get for picking up an item. So the faster you pick up an item, the more score you get. Underneath that you have the amount of bikes, and then underneath that again you have your gear. Once you get the gear changer, you can switch between low and high, and you don't really need to use any other gear than low gear while you're doing the gathering of components. You also have a fuel gauge, which of course if you run out of fuel you lose a life, but There's a petrol station, or garage, whatever you call it, where you can go and refuel at will, so if you run out of fuel, that's your own fault. It's not a punishing mechanic in any way, shape, or form. The controls are very tight, to be honest. It takes a bit of time getting used to, but once getting used to, it's relatively easy to master. You cannot reverse, so when you get into a tight spot, you have to make absolutely sure you got enough room to get out of said tight spot again. The collision can be a bit overzealous. Sometimes you look like you have a bit more space than you actually have because it considers you to have crashed. But all in all, I think, considering this is a T-range game, it's actually fairly enjoyable. I don't know. For me personally, it's one of those games where I don't really consider playing it, and then I start playing it for the purpose of making a video like this, for instance, and then I actually have a very good time with it. It's just showcasing one of the more deviously placed components. Yeah, it is very, very easy to fall off. Gentle touch does it. I actually think this game is considered to be somewhat of a classic for T-range games. And I can understand why, because all things considered, for what you would pay for this game, there's a certain amount of gameplay in it and value for money based on time spent with it. And even though if you complete it when you complete it, there is a certain replay value in the fact that you might want to master it and see how, not necessarily speedrun it, because of course speedrunning is usually about skipping things and things like that, but more like a mastering run where you beat the game as quickly as you can. And I could easily imagine that that would be very, very enjoyable, watching someone playing through the game just go straight for each part, no hesitation, no slowdown, no nothing. That could be something to strive for. Not for me. I enjoy this game, but I just don't have the patience I used to have when it comes to retrying these kind of things over and over again. Not an awful lot more to say. Action Biker is an enjoyable little game, and it will probably have quite a significant learning curve when it comes to remembering where the different parts are, and never got. There's actually plenty of gameplay. It will always be down to whether you like this type of game or not, and if you like this type of game, obviously you're going to enjoy it, and if you don't, you're probably not going to. But that applies to every game, and I don't necessarily feel I need to say it every single time, but it's easy to say this is a great game, and then someone says, "Oh, I hate that piece of shit." Okay, so I'm always trying to put in that caveat, which of course is a bit superfluous, I think. But yeah, Action Biker, Mastertronic, a nice little game that's surprisingly enjoyable to play. And on that note, I don't have an awful lot more to say about it, so thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye.